All right, it's called a meeting order. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Danielle, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pressgraves,
Here.
Mr. Vickers,
Here.
Mr. Doffmeyer,
Here.
Mr. Shower,
Here.
Mr. Lancaster,
Here.
Mr. Sowers,
Here.
Ms. Pence.
Okay, I'm going to read the continuity of government announcement. This meeting of the town council is being held pursuant to the April 13th, 2020 ordinance of continuity in the government of Luray. The town clerk shall read the names of the council members present and identify those who are electronically present. In-person attendance by the public is permitted, subject to the limitations of the most recent executive order and phasing guidelines issued by Governor Northam. This meeting can be viewed live on the town's Facebook page, and recording will be available on the town's YouTube channel. Minutes of the meeting will be posted on the town's website after being approved by the town council. Okay, Mel, would you went all the road, didn't you? Yeah, let's updates on this stuff. Mr. Bird?
Yes, sir.
Partial donation?
I'm sorry?
Partial donation?
Yes, sir.
Partial.
As we discussed at the last meeting, Blue Ridge Bank is interested in donating a portion or all of the property that includes the upper parking lot where the cell tower is behind the post office, as well as a lower parking lot, and then the property on either side of Hawksbill Creek. Staff have gone out and the condition of the parking lot is adequate. Long term, there might need to be a resurfacing of some sort, but the immediate condition is workable. In addition, there's a light at both parking lots. I'm not sure who is responsible for the maintenance of the light and if it will continue to operate, but there is lighting there. There is a decent wear surface on the parking lot. So staff would recommend council consider accepting the parcel in its entirety, and we're here to answer any questions that y'all might have.
Steve, as I mentioned, I think last meeting, there is income producing property there, isn't it? Don't they have a lease with friend or whoever?
There is a $6,000 a year lease for the property that, back to it.
Where the actual tower is, isn't it?
Yeah, no, actually, it's this property right here where the power supply for the tower is. The tower is an independent parcel, but where the power supply to the cell tower is on this parcel, and that is what there is a lease with the bank. And it would transfer with the property.
And I believe that goes up slightly every year, doesn't it?
I don't know. I've not seen the lease itself.
So does that, in your notes you said that it may need to be subdivided off portionally?
We could look at doing that, yes,
so you're
sir.
saying if they wanted to retain that, then we would.
Yes, sir. And that is something to discuss, but as it's been presented, it would be the full parcel.
Did we ever check to see if the parcel down in the bottom corner where the greenway comes off of the old road and goes down on the east side of the parking lot was ever deeded over to the town from the bank?
We've not found anything, but this is simply a representation of in the GIS. We've not pursued what the actual survey is. It may have been.
Are we going to?
Well, if we pursue full dedication, it would convey to the town.
Because I would think as much as Racing Engineering surveyed that place, not only for the greenway but for the bridge, it ought to show up in there somewhere, because I know you can't go by the GIS.
Correct.
And they'll tell you that.
Didn't Mr. Bauer mention he thought that had already been included, but it was never recorded? He had some thoughts on that, didn't he?
And again, we've not really done any research if the town accepted simply the lower parcel, regardless of what has been previously dedicated to the town, that would relieve any question, and we could resolve that once we go further with the acquisition.
Do you have any idea what kind of taxes are collected on this property?
No, sir, but we can find that out for you before the next meeting.
Well, surely the 6,000 a year would more than cover that, wouldn't it?
Well, unless
Of course,
they,
the county's the real loser in this.
unless they deed this out.
Well, I guess my understanding they aren't, but,
No, they weren't proposing that. That was something that staff indicated that we could possibly do, but that was not included in. Blue Ridge Bank is simply looking to dedicate the entire parcel.
So our plan would be to use it for public parking,
Yes, sir.
for Main Street overflow parking, that sort of thing.
Yes, sir, just to sign it as a public parking lot. Blue Ridge Bank does request that as a public lot, it be available to their employees during normal work hours, which as a public lot, it would be.
Are there any issues or complications with us subleasing part of a town-owned property to the?
No, sir, it's like if we had an agreement with a cell provider at a water tank, where
Same type
it's
of
our
thing,
property
just
and we
not
can't
different
lease it
with
to.
being a proper land or anything like that.
Yes, sir.
Well, this looks to me like another situation where the whole greenway wasn't under deed to the town. Like, when it went through underneath the bridge. I'm just glad to see us be able to get that property for sure.
Well, and it may well be.
It may
Again,
already.
what we're looking at is.
I think we already own it,
Okay, good.
because
You wouldn't
see,
have done
when
it
you're dealing
otherwise.
with the Greenway, you're also dealing with the feds, and they want proof of everything.
Okay.
That's why I can't figure out how the part of it with the bridge ended up being along the ground for us.
And like you said, the GIS is never totally accurate with what the line.
Any other questions for Mr. Burke? We've gone to the West Luray Recreation Center donation request.
Yes, sir. The town has received a request from the West Luray Recreation Center for a donation of $5,000 towards installation of insulation in the building that would allow it to be fully utilized during the winter. It's currently being used as a location for tutoring and computer lab for students within Luray and Page County. And the town attorney has opined that as a facility that provides internet service towards our youth to facilitate fulfilling the educational needs, that it could qualify as a reimbursable CARES Act request.
It could, or you have a high confidence?
He said it can. Yes, can.
Fees is being used for education, doesn't this fall under the county's?
It could if they made that request to the county. The county could. I don't think they've made the request. They have made the request to the town.
So you have a full cost of what, 78, 80 for this?
Yes, sir.
Full estimate?
Well, if we're discussing the idea of the request, when I first heard about it, I guess I was concerned about the slippery slope of it being not a town entity. And then the more I thought about it, it's kind of like I think we do LDI. We give money to them every year as for economic development. I kind of think West Luray Rec Center is economic development, getting our kids back on track and a place they can be. So I'm all for the idea if we can fund it to do it.
For the purposes of this, it's for COVID.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, for the purpose of COVID. I like that idea. I'm glad the lawyer found that.
So we make sure we get reimbursed.
They
I mean, I think it's, I'm glad to hear that it's eligible for us to fund. I think it's.
Well, that one place has made a big impact in this town.
Yes, it has.
That's good.
I think the county would have a better chance of getting it than we would.
Well, then they should go for it.
That's what I said.
Can we ask the county to look into it? To to donate that 5,000?
We could, I can do that.
Yeah, I think.
You mean in addition to ours, or?
No.
I would say look at it that way, in addition, I mean, because they have utility expenses, they have internet, I don't know what their
Well,
bandwidth
they're
is, I
feeding
guess
people
it's a
too, I
pretty
think.
sizable bill. So,
They may have made a county request, I'm not aware of one, but that doesn't mean that they haven't made a similar request for additional funding for other efforts. All I know is that they did submit this request for the installation as a one-time CARES Act contribution.
I know we're gonna be coming up here next meeting, we'll have a truer sense of what some of the other CARES allocations are, but I'd encourage us to consider doing a little more if we have some unallocated funds in this.
Again, like I said last meeting, I really think it would be unfortunate on our part to give it back. We have good places to spend it.
So we'll include this on November, but we'll also ask if the county could, and if we hear from them.
I would encourage the rec center to file the county as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
For this, I mean, makes sense. Okay, Brown's construction cost estimates?
Yes, sir. Brian has obtained updated cost estimates for different items at the Browns building. Painting the front of the building would be about $4,500. Painting the side of the building would be $5,700. Painting the kitchen would be about $6,500. Replacing the front glass would be $3,300. Bird proofing the two overhangs over the doors would be $800. Replacing the damaged front door wood trim would be $200. And then repairing the rear porch and entrance door roof would be about $8,000. And we haven't budgeted any of this money, but council has been
Didn't
inquiring.
something come up very recently about having an opportunity to sell the building?
Potentially, yes, sir.
Well, if that's the case, are these things needed now from us? Would the buyer possibly want to buy the building without this being done?
It's my understanding that none of these items were included in the offer.
Yeah,
I think these ought to go on the back burner.
Yeah.
Are any of them necessary to prevent further damage or degradation of the building, would be the only thing?
Outside of the bird proofing, that would probably be the one item that would definitely prevent further deterioration.
Okay.
And that's more cosmetic than structural.
That's nothing, a blue top.
Yeah.
Well, were we gonna discuss this in closed session at our next regular meeting? The possible sale?
We're asking. The offer was time specific, and we're asking if there is the ability to extend the time on the offer so that council would have time to consider it at a meeting.
Well, since that's only 2 weeks away, I would suggest we wait until then to make any decision.
I agree, I don't think we should spend any money on that, it's just other property out there. Okay, Luray Volunteer Fire Department?
Yes, sir. The town has also received a request from the Luray Fire Department to consider use of about $40,000 of the town's CARES Act allocation to assist them with purchasing a 2021 Chevy Tahoe that would be used to respond to COVID-related emergencies. And this would qualify as a CARES Act reimbursable expense.
The money's there, right?
Yes, sir.
This is in addition to the funding we already gave.
This is in addition to the $5,000. They have put in their request for that. The rescue squad is putting together their request to itemize what their expenses have been, but we expect that request to be in shortly as well.
Do they realize they have to buy this vehicle within 2 months? Is that possible to do that?
Well, technically, it's sort of like the scholarship. Once we issue the check, the time is on us to get it allocated. It's not incumbent on those that receive it to hit that 31 December date.
Thank you.
Now, between the rescue squad, this, and anything else that comes up over the next month or next couple of weeks weeks, it'll be interesting to see and perhaps prioritize, or even this says up to that much, but, you know, like Gary said, just give it back, absolutely help our community.
Well, and just to update you on CARES, the requests for your small business grant are now, have reached the number of applications that we are exceeding the 25,000 that was allocated.
Okay.
So that might be enough.
important.
We would anticipate at your November meeting identifying who got in first to qualify for the 25, and then who else has gone beyond that, just to see if y'all want to increase the amount available on that.
Is there a cutoff date on those applications?
31st of December, the 31st of October, sorry.
Oh, October. Oh.
So before the next meeting, we'll know how
So
many
we'll
people.
know what the
Yes, sir.
extent of our.
The requests are,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
How many do we have now, Steve?
I believe it's 10 to 12. It's enough that with the $2,500, we exceed the 25,000 that was
Is
allocated.
that 12 asking for the 2,500, or some of them were asking for?
Some of that, we've received a small number of nonprofit and one home-based.
Okay.
And the scholarships?
Last I'd heard, there were only 2 applications, but again, that money continues past 31 December, and it will go into the next semester, so that anyone.
That's why we just wrote the check.
Yes, sir.
With the business, the feedback I received on that was that it was a little too restrictive. It was actually more restrictive than the Virginia program. Specifically with the showing the losses, there was just a lot of layers to it given the amount of money. That was the feedback that I got on that. And the feedback that I got from the scholarship was that the classes, most of them were already filled or had sort of started, so that we probably wouldn't see that until next semester.
Another point on that too, I had a business owner that said that we should remove the restrictions for franchises, and I'm not sure, I guess the rationale is it's part of a bigger thing, but to me, if the business has in fact been impacted by COVID and they're in town of Luray, I personally wouldn't care whether it's a franchise or not. I don't know what our fellow council members believe.
And keep in mind, they are independently owned, so
Yes,
it is owners, they're just having to use, it's like buying a business plan.
Well, are some of these conditions imposed to meet the criteria for the.
That was my understanding.
I think some of these, I think
Okay.
we have to be able to
And if it is,
demonstrate
of
to,
course.
when we get reimbursed on it, that it is in fact used for COVID-related expenses.
Certainly, but yeah, if qualified for, what's the
I don't know what that has
franchise
to do with
issue?
the franchise, it has nothing to do with that.
If it would be.
But some of the other things in terms of listing the expenses that.
And it may have been that, again, we utilized other communities when we put them together, so.
Sure.
I would double check that just because like the rebuild, none of the Virginia grants and the county grants don't require that, so please check that, if that's actually
What, opening the books?
the 25% loss. Well, it's a
Sure.
specific amount, it's not just a loss, it's specifically 25%, which means if you had 23% loss, you didn't qualify.
In the restaurant business, 10% means a whole lot.
Yeah, because that's all your problem.
More folks I heard it. Fantastic.
And the other feedback I got was that 2,500 isn't really worth applying for because it's less than a mortgage. It's less than your monthly mortgage and your utilities for 1 month. And considering most businesses were shut down for 4 or 5, it's like, it's not the difference between somebody being successful or trying to recuperate or even coming out 50%. You're talking about making up for such a small amount of money. And the other thing to think about too is, we have a business in town, Richard's Bus Service, and to make over 1.5 million in their gross sales roughly, just knowing the nature of the business, they've been completely devastated. $2,500 is, I think we really need to probably get a business committee on this and get it on there soon. And working closely.
Well, again, I think our program was not intended to be the only, it was supplemental to all of the other programs that both the county and the state had. And the state has much deeper pockets as far as being able to provide programs for larger businesses. The intent when we presented it to council was more for your smaller businesses, where $2,500 would be a substantial amount.
But this, I'm telling you, small businesses I talk to are like $2,500. It's a month. It's a month utilities. It's a month rent. I mean, think about it. The government gave each individual one of us $1,200. None of us have this. It's not a lot of money, and most of us didn't even feel that impact.
All I can say is that we've had enough applicants that the 25,000 would be fully utilized.
Yeah, I'm just recommending that you maybe talk to more businesses and like, let's figure this out a little bit more, because what I'm hearing in feedback is it's too complicated, it's too restrictive, and it's not enough money. So I just think we should investigate that more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, VDOT, state of good repair road paving, Mr. Christmas, good back.
Yes, sir. Last week, the Commonwealth Transportation Board basically took their finger out of the dam on funding for a lot of the projects that they've been holding back, waiting to see what state revenues are going to be. Among those projects that were approved were 6 state of good repair primary extension paving applications for the town of Luray. 4 of those segments are on North Broad Street between Hillhouse Lane and the entrance to Bulldog Field. One is the westbound lanes out near Dry Run Bridge between Wallace and the Eastern Corporation limits. And the longest one is between roughly Cole Street and the railroad tracks on East and West Main Street. So they're looking about going to add January of this new year, the 2021, and hopefully starting paving process late March, early April for some of these segments. So good news about state of good repair is it's 100% money, it's no match, and it's an addition to our normal urban maintenance fund. So this is just about $500,000 worth of additional paving that will be done, and we're going to continue to pursue the other segments that we didn't get approved this time. So we expect we have a little bit of good news when it comes to construction.
Brian, does this affect the roundabout at all? Are we still waiting on that?
The roundabout, just got a update on that today. They're looking about a January ad. They're doing the final lighting review now. Final plans are supposed to come out second week in November. And so we'll see. I've got to go for the final construction meeting in Stanton sometime in mid-November. And then they're planning on going to add also in January of 2021. I'm not going to hold my breath on that. I'll believe it when I see it. But it does appear that the funding issue is now removed, and so they're moving forward on a lot of projects. So,
Brian, I got one other question. Remember back when you had to do that sidewalk study to identify things that we were supposed to be at least doing something each year? Is that still happening?
Oh yeah, yeah. We're probably of the mapped area that's online. We're more than halfway through that list since 2017. So in 3 years, we've completed about 50% of that list, and West Main is our next major thoroughfare that we're going to start working on now. The bridge is complete, so we'll be headed that way and making some changes and updates. We just looked at one today. It's actually going to be impacted by this primary extension funding, because ADA application, anywhere this funding touches, like crosswalks or whatever like that, they have to have ADA compliant ramps. So 2 of the segments we have had not been done, so I'm gonna have to do those now, because that way they're ready, at the end of March, early April 2021 when they start paving. So yeah, we're more than halfway done to that list, and I've got 2 more segments to add to that list, and we're gonna keep plugging away at that.
Well, that's the kind of thing that residents see happening, that, just is good things to happen. I'm glad you're doing it.
Okay.
That's all we have,
All right,
sir.
that's all I see on the agenda. Thanks for coming. Meeting adjourned.